I'm not doing this. Sandra Jackson Opoku is an amazing person. It so happens that she writes poems and novels and things of that nature. And anything that I am as a writer, part of it is because I got a chance to learn, reading her work, how good a person can be at writing, just period. She is an icon in our city and in our country, one of the greats. For real, I'm not making it up. She's one of the greats when it comes to American writing and being able to document what's been happening with us and in our world. I'm humbled by the fact that one, it took forever to make this happen because I see her all the time because we're neighbors. Two, I'm even though I've done this for a long time, getting people like Sandra Jackson Opoku on the show, that's a big get for me. So I am really happy that she has been staying on me to make this happen. Her new book, Savvy Summers and the Sweet Potato Crimes, is currently out now. And I am really happy to have the great Sandra Jackson Opoku here on the show. Good afternoon, and how are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much for that lovely intro, Mario. I hope to live up to
Oh,
it.
stop. You've lived way past. I can't do justice to how great you are. Um, Before we talk about the book and things like that, you studied under Chinua Achebe.
Yes, many, many moons ago, when I was a African American Studies major in college at the University of Massachusetts, he was teaching there. Um, the famous Nigerian novelist, author of Things Fall Apart, No Longer
Absolutely.
at Ease,
Yeah.
and other works. So I considered myself very lucky to have been able to sit in his African literature class.
I imagine you studying under Chinua Achebe is like people who had the wonderful fortune of studying under Gwendolyn Brooks. What kind of classroom was that with him leading it?
It was, as I recall, now we're going back way back in the Wayback Machine, back to 1975. As I recall, it was like a survey of African literature.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a small kind of seminar class, very interesting freewheeling discussions about all of the works. At that time, the numbers of African writers who were actually published and or translated and whose work was available globally was not as nowhere near as well publicized as it is now. So we actually, as I recall, read all of the work in the Heinemann's African Writers series,
Hmm.
and then we had these very interesting discussions about those works.
I can only imagine. You've been doing this for a minute in Chicago, and I don't know. I mean, I know how the line works, right? When you're a poet here in this city, especially, you got a lot of people to like, you know, pay homage to. There's Gwendolyn Brooks. There's yourself. There's the poets who are here now really doing work. Avery R. Young, the contemporary up and coming and all that. Just that there's a lineage, a long line. How do we keep this going? How do we? And I'm speaking probably more for me than I am for anybody else. How do we keep how do we stay relevant? How do we stay current? What do we need to do in your estimation, if there's anything that we need to do to be able to achieve those things?
Yeah, I don't know necessarily know if I'm the woman with the plan or not, but I do know what worked for us when I was a young writer, a member of the iconic organization OBASI, which
Mm.
was the Organization of Black American Culture Writers Workshop. And we took the word everywhere to, to parks, to taverns, to union halls. wherever the people were, that is where we took the work and took the writing. And I think we could benefit by that. Even today, the idea that rather than expecting the people to come to you, you take the work and take the word to the people wherever they might happen to be, whether it's the pool hall or the prisons
Hmm.
or the the schools, the universities,
Yeah.
wherever. That's something that Gwendolyn Brooks did. You could hear her. She was very much a public poet, and you could hear her in so many different ways and so many different places.
And before we talk about Savvy Summers, because I definitely want to talk about that, do you think that we are benefiting from this amazing technology that is available to us, or are we relying on it too much? Are we leaning on it too much to get our words out and to get our point across?
As writers,
Yes.
well, I think that technology has its limitations, and that there is nothing like being able to be in the same space
Mm-hmm.
as a writer. Having said that, I have benefited by, I mean, I've heard, Australian writers and writers in South Africa and in France. I've gone to literary conferences online,
Mm-hmm.
virtual conferences that I probably never would have been able to do had it not been for this technology.
Yeah.
So while I acknowledge that that there's a kind of distancing from the writer and his or her audience, that it also gives us a breadth and a depth of experience and exposure that I find very exciting.
So your new book, or your current book, because you've written many, Savvy Summers and the Sweet Potato Crimes, a 2025 culinary cozy mystery. It's the first in the Savvy Summers mystery series set in Woodline. I am so happy about that. I have never been that happy. I'm from Woodline, so I'm super happy about that. That made me really happy.
Yeah,
um,
well, I live in Hyde Park now, as do you, but
yes.
when I started this book, I was living in Woodlawn, and just I wanted to honor that space as a black space,
Mm-hmm.
authentically Chicago, authentically um, black.
Indeed.
And that's what Woodlawn represents.
So I did not know this before, and I guess I should have known it. I just didn't. It is this novel is in the cozy genre. What is a cozy novel?
Well, funny, you should ask that, Mario. So this is a genre that it's been around for, probably close to a century.
Oh, and I did not
Uh,
know. See.
yeah, but you wouldn't know, and unless you were reading them, you wouldn't necessarily know. So cozy mysteries are
Mm-hmm.
uh, amateur. They're works that feature an amateur sleuth. So think I'm trying to think. The old TV show,
Or like the Hardy
Murder
Boys or
She.
something. Murder She Wrote.
Right.
Yeah.
So in crime fiction and crime writing, you have a lot of procedural kind of mystery novels, which there'll be a police officer or there'll be a private investigator, a lawyer, a journalist.
Mm-hmm.
There are even medical procedural mysteries. But the cozy mysteries are distinguished by the fact that the sleuth, the person who it sets out to solve the crime, is an amateur. And oftentimes these are mysteries that are set in small towns, villages. That's where you get the cozy part of it from. Um, and they are more Yeah, you don't see a lot of uh, um, violence or necessarily rough language or sexual content on
Hmm.
the page, although some of those rules I bend them a little bit. And they tend to be, kind of, I don't know, in addition to being murder mysteries, they look deep into the human psyche and the type of characters and people that we encounter in our everyday lives, the next door neighbor or the librarian or the bookseller or whomever who might also happen to be a murderer.
And in the book, and I don't want to give away any of it to folks who may not have read it, and I want to make sure that I'm very careful about it. There are a lot of surprises in this book. The main character is a character in this book. You know what I mean? Like a very
Mhm.
it's I could see there being a lot of these written with Savvy Summers solving crimes in the neighborhood, but uh, again, there's surprises in here. Um, the folks around that cafe are very interesting. Everybody is layered, yet you do a to me, and I am no book reviewer. Lord knows. I'm more of a reader than reviewer, but you do such a wonderful job of giving people a great picture and painting that wonderful picture of not just Chicago, but definitely of the black community in Woodlawn and how folks in that community get down. I this is a book that I saw one review where they said it was 4 cups of tea you would need to get through the book. So I
And a
kind
slice of sweet potato
potato
pie to
pie,
go along
exactly.
with it.
Yeah. So I kind of like that. I like that. How many more of these are in the line or in the queue rather?
Well, time will tell. I mean, a lot of it is dependent on the reader response. So far, I've been blessed. It has, created some traction out there. So I'm at work right now on revising the second installment of the Savvy Summers mystery series.
Nice.
And this is Savvy Summers and the Po' Boy Peril. So she starts experimenting with New Orleans Creole cuisine, and
Okay.
that leads her into solving a murder or two. But yeah, I really wanted this to be kind of like a love letter to Chicago in general, because even though it's set in Woodlawn, we venture a few other places, Wrigleyville
Mm-hmm.
and the North Shore, but also an homage to, all of those amateur cooks out there, the grandmas and the big mamas and, um, the little mom and pop restaurant owners, Gladys's
Yeah.
and, you know, uh, um, Queen of the Sea and
Yes.
uh, Army and Lou's, many of those places which no longer exist, but that were a mainstay in our community and to a certain extent still are. And, not only serving up this food that satisfies the soul as well as the appetite, but also serving as like a community gathering spot. So you
Mm-hmm.
see all kinds of people coming in and out of Essie's place. And if you've ever been to a soul food restaurant, this may be very familiar to you.
Been to a few of them, and it's funny. All those places at one time or another, whether I had the fortune of going into it with other poets or not, were places when after a reading we would find like we got to go to Army and Lou's. We got to go to Gladys's. I want to say there was a time I can't remember. Maybe it was I don't know, Reggie Gibson was like, "Hey y'all, let's meet at Gladys's," and I had never been.
Mm.
This is years ago. I had never been, and I had heard stories about Gladys's, like a lot of stories from my family,
Hmm.
and being in there was the same thing with Isola's. Being in those places, it's like whoa, because it's as Chicago as it gets, and it is as authentic. Black Chicago as it gets, and I for those opportunities I have had to be in those rooms, I'm really happy about that. Before I let you go, first of all, thank you so much. This is very meaningful to me to have you on. Um, and you're so important to our community of writers here in town. I don't think you get told that enough, so I'm going to tell you that.
Thank you, Mario.
You're welcome. One of the one of the things that I like about your work, whether it's through poetry or if it's in a novel or whenever you're doing whatever it is that you're doing, the thing that I have always been impressed about you, and I don't want to make it sound like I am, the authority of if you impress Mario Smith. Not in any way am I trying to say that, but your authenticity makes it really easy as a writer to respect the words that you are using. How important is it to you? And I suppose everybody should have this at least a modicum of wanting to be authentic or presenting their authentic self. But how important is that to you in your work, authenticity?
I came up under the tutelage of people like Gwendolyn Brooks, Hoyt W. Fuller, who was the chairperson for a long time of Obasi Writers Workshop, Haki Matabuti, and others. And, this is the tail end of the Black arts movement, in which Black writers and Black artists, the Black arts movement is the artistic arm of the Black Power movement.
Mm-hmm.
So we were really deeply and sincerely searching for a Black aesthetic, a means, and a method of expressing what we know and feel and have experienced as authentic and honest Black culture. And, for everybody, that's going to be a little different. There's a Black experience of the South Side, which is a little bit different of, the Black West Side or
Mm-hmm.
the Evanston or the suburbs. But that it's really important for us to look to our own traditions, to look to our own culture, and to look into our own um, communities to tell our stories. So I count myself as lucky that I came up in that era. So I felt like I never had any other choice but to be authentically and realistically and honestly Black.
That's
That's who I am.
that's it. That's that same here. Sandra, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate you taking time out of your amazingly busy schedule, and I do know how busy it is to talk to little old me. I really appreciate you. I always have, and I appreciate this.
Oh,
I do, I really do. Sandra Jackson Opoku is the author of the book Savvy Summers and the Sweet Potato Crimes. It is a Minotaur book, and it is available wherever books are sold.
can I say one more thing?
Absolutely.
If you're listening to this on Thursday, November 13th, when it's being broadcast, I would invite you to join me at Mesler's, uh, which is the restaurant at the Sophie Hotel on 53rd Street from 7 to 9 p.m. To come out and say hi. I'm going to be doing a meet and greet and
Look
a
at
book
you.
signing.
Look at you.
So
Look at you talking about a meet and greet.
come
What?
on through.
Hey, listen, you are the greatest. I appreciate you doing this, and thank you so much for everything you've done for us. Really, really appreciate you. Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you, Mario.
Sandra Jackson Opoku. The book is Savvy Summers and the Sweet Potato Crimes. I won't tell you what's in the book, but you need to make notes. You're going to have a pen and paper, help solve this crime, get you some sweet potato pie and 4 cups of tea, and do the thing. Thank you again, Sandra. It is the top of the hour. What? How we get there?